Hi everybody, welcome back. So I hope you enjoyed that. We cut it short a little bit because I'm English and we have to stay on time. But there'll be plenty more time to network later. But hopefully, you enjoyed speed networking. We were doing it here. We got Pravit and we met Stefan from Thailand and Belgium. So without further ado, I'd like to go into our next session and we go straight to Mark Brewster, the CEO of Explori, who can introduce it. Take it away, Mark.
Hi. Yeah, great.
We're live now, are we? Fantastic.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
hello everyone, and welcome to this session on who owns the data at the UFI European Conference. Delighted to be joined by an illustrious panel of industry experts and panelists and CEOs, rather, from the major events, digital event platforms, and we're going to be tackling one of the frankly really hot topics in the issue at the moment. It's been a burning undercurrent of discussion that's been going on really since about March last year. And that is, of course, of the topic of data ownership. Who owns it and what are the risks? We're at a time of perceived disruption for organizers and a lot of uncertainty. And with that and the voodoo around a lot of legal negotiations that are done in this world and fear and confusion. This is a session that's about getting clarity and cutting through some of the noise to try and allay some fears and understand what's what and identify the risks. So in a minute, I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves. We've got a very, very stingy amount of time today, UFI, for a very big topic, just 30 minutes. So we are going to have to be brief. Before I kick off and ask the panelists to introduce themselves, I will say that I was invited by UFI to chair this topic partially because of my role as the founder of VSEF, an organization that is working together with all the platforms present today to create standardization in virtual and digital platform engagement data. I am neutral in this position, therefore. I work with all of these platforms. I also work with pretty much all the organizers. Therefore, if this descends into any kind of digital bar brawl, that is not my doing. I'm neutral in this, but I'm sure it won't anyway. We're a civilized bunch. So starting with ladies first, Joanne, would you like to kick us off? Just with an introduction.
Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone. Thanks. I'm Joanne Kelloway. I was CEO and founder of a company called InfoSalons Group. I've been in the industry for over 30 years. A few years ago, Freeman acquired my business and I've been working directly with Freeman. InfoSalons was one of the largest registration companies throughout all of Asia, China, and the Middle East. And now we're very much part of Freeman's data offering. I have become an industry international ambassador for Freeman directly now, and I am very excited to be joining this panel.
Thank you. Tanya.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Pinchuk. I am CEO and co-founder of ExpoPlatform. ExpoPlatform is one of the leading platforms that provide networking technology and community platforms now to the events industry, to the exhibitions and conferences. I am personally in this business for much longer than the company exists. The company was founded in 2013, but I started much earlier being exhibition organizer and venue manager previously. So now I'm excited about the time we live in, and together with exhibition organizers, we work internationally. We work with leading companies all over the world, and together with our clients and the industry, we are building this future best possible format for the events industry.
Thank you. Baptiste.
Hi everyone, Baptiste speaking. I'm one of the co-founder and CEO of Swapcard. We are a all-in-one solution for large-scale conference and exhibition across the globe. So we have 9 offices, and we really help our clients to generate networking opportunities for in between their attendees and sponsors. So it's a lot about generating sales qualified leads for their sponsor and exhibitor, and a lot of using AI, and so of course powering virtual, hybrid, and face-to-face event.
Fantastic. And last but certainly not least, Tim Groot.
Hi everyone, thank you for inviting me. I'm Tim, the founder and CEO of Grip. Well, you're using the platform at the moment, so thank you so much, and hope you're having a good time. We are a market engagement platform for trade shows, conferences, and really kind of all different event types to generate leads and opportunities, and powered by the power of AI. So we really use a lot of kind of machine learning and algorithms in order to make sure that we connect the right people at events. We've been awarded 2 Digital Innovation Awards for that by UFI in 2016 and 2020. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Right, so let's get stuck into the discussion. Just to give a little bit of an introduction for the benefit of those people who are perhaps less familiar with the data types that are in play in digital events. There are typically really 2 main classifications of data that are of interest and key assets to the organizer. Those classifications are identity data, i.e. the name of the individual, the email, the company that they work for, and perhaps also some additional demographics. And then we also have the behavioral data, i.e. what the participant in the event, whether they are an attendee or an exhibitor, actually does, what they click on, who they meet, what sessions they attend, how long they do what kind of connections they build. And so there are 2 different types of data at play. And the organizer community has concerns around who owns what type of data. In order that the platforms present today, and a lot of the other platforms that are not on this panel but offer the same kind of business model, in order that they can offer the best engagement, the best matchmaking, they need to be able to train algorithms of theirs. And with that comes a position in owning or controlling or using data, either on the organizer's behalf or also on their behalf thereafter. So there are different positions that different brands take. And I know Tanya has produced a couple of slides. Tanya, did you want to just kick us off with your slides introducing ExpoPlatform's position on data ownership?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. May we have the first slide? Yeah. So I will generally speak about 2 possible approaches to this. May we have the second one first? Thanks. So there are, as Mark said, we have 2 types of data: user data and usage data. So user is demographic data, and usage is like interactions and behavioral data. So in the first model, we speak about organizer-led data control. When organizer owns the data and controls all the relationships and is the exclusive data controller. In this case, organizer passes the data to the vendor platform. It can be captured by several ways. It can be received through the registration itself when vendor provides the registration. It can be captured, gathered via APIs, integrations from CRM or third parties. And in this case, organizer controls everything that is happening, and the user sign the agreement with the organizer, and the organizer allows users to interact on the vendor platform. In this case, if organizer wants to stop their relationships with the vendor, they can easily extract all the data that they passed over to the vendor platform and move to another platform. And if we speak about the nature of the exhibition business itself, we have to speak about two main assets or two main pillars. The first one is the data, especially the combination of user and usage data. And the second one is the brand itself. And by brand, we mean know-how, the deep knowledge of the industry, and this emotional connection that organizer builds with the user. In the second model, please maybe move to the second slide. Yeah. In the second model, we have different approach where vendor owns and controls the data. It's important to probably to say here that the real owner of the data is the user, and organizer and vendor can be controllers or processors of the data. But in this model, we have vendor in the center of these relationships where multiple organizers feed their vendor platform with their data and provide not only access and allow them to be a processor of the data for the time being of the event or community portfolio of events, but also they leave this data and allow vendor to operate with this data is in any possible way we can imagine. And user is the direct becomes a direct client or direct like they sign in agreement with the vendor. So it's quite risky, and it's for every organizer to take this decision. At ExpoPlatform, we have a very clear position on this. We stated in our data policy, in our data manifesto, and in our agreement we signed with the organizer, where we state that the organizer is the only controller and owner of the data, and we are a processor. I wouldn't say that I am the biggest expert in the second model where vendor is the owner. We observe this from outside. We constantly speaking about this with other organizers, and probably it's better to pass this to someone else who is present here who can better describe the second model.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you. If I can just go on, Baptiste. Okay, so Tanya, can I just clarify then? So if you're from ExpoPlatform's position, if an organizer is working with you, at no point do you own the identity data of the attendees, and you, but you do use and do you own the behavioral data, the anonymous behavioral data, therefore, of on the platform? You do, yes. Okay, and then if the organizer decides to stop working with ExpoPlatform, do you delete the data and hand it back to the organizer?
Yeah. So at ExpoPlatform, we are a processor of this data, and our platform is powered by AI algorithm. We provide the best possible matchmaking to enable exhibitors and visitors to communicate, and not only like matchmaking between person and person, but person and different objects. So we feed our algorithm with the usage data to provide the best possible recommendations to the end user. But we
I got that. But if they stop working with you, do you delete the data?
Yes, we delete the user data, and we don't need the user data to like continue providing the best matchmaking. It's enough to get hold on the anonymous usage data.
Usage data. So you retain the usage data only, but no user data, no identity data. Okay. Fine.
Yes.
So then, Baptiste, can you explain for us how this works at Swapcard? What data do you own as part of your standard terms and conditions?
Yeah, so thank you for the slides. There is actually a third model. This is, I think everyone is going to the third model, and these two models, unfortunately, are too simple for industry, and I think none of the platform are the first or the second model, because actually there is a co-ownership of the data, kind of. So at Swapcard, we do our process controller. I mean, the clients own the data. With GDPR, they can export any data. That's the first thing. I think in any platform, if you push the data, you can pull the data. That's something we believe, that we don't want to host clients based on the data. We have seen legacy platform, especially registration platform, where it was really, really hard to get the data as an organizer. So with the new player, of course, we want to be as open as possible. This is why I think most of us has open API, and you can plug and push data. That's the first thing. So it means that the organizer, do own the data, because then you can push and control the data. And with Swapcard Open API, you can collect all the data, but not just the demographic data. There is also all the behavioral data. So you can enrich your database and you can use it for marketing automation tool, whatever, everything you want. And we are now work with very large exhibition organizer. We've created a specific digital team who are selling and packaging this data to their clients. So that's the first thing. So it's also based on GDPR. Then in terms of owning or controlling or deleting data at Swapcard, we don't delete any data. We believe that the data belongs to the user. So at Swapcard, when you push data, we create a profile to the attendees with our registration platform or any other registration platform. So you have an identity, and that identity is stored on our server, and you cannot delete that. So every individual people using Swapcard, they have the same account across all events, no matter if it's a white label solution or not. If you terminate your contract with Swapcard, you cannot delete that data. We will store this data during 3 years. And after 3 years, if that attendees didn't log again to any events powered by Swapcard, we will delete the data according to GDPR. So we believe that the controller of this identity is the individual himself. And if he wants, he can delete the data himself. But if an organizer says, I want to delete my database, especially my attendees, I would say yes, it's possible, but you need to send us a proof that that specific attendees opt in, because there is impact. If you delete that data, it deletes all their chats, their contacts, their connection. And of course, the reason why we attend events is to create a network. So we are giving control to the end user to protect his own data, his own ownership, which is his network. So it's very different from, let's say, registration only a system where if you delete the data, it has absolutely almost no impact to the attendees, except that they have to re-register. So, and then, as Tanya said, we have also AI. And so the AI has to analyze all the behavioral, and we need to analyze all the behavioral happening to Swapcard on all events. So it's like a global social graph, and this is not curated or siloed per events. So in that way, we also don't control, but we process the data on behalf of our customer. So it's a very important topic, of course, but it's also a very specific and topic which is always hard to explain. And I think we need to also change the habits of clients who run on a project-to-project basis and restart over every year their next edition and their experience. And now we're moving to community approach. I think that would be no longer a concern of the industry, but we need to, of course, explain the value to store the data within the platform and how we're using the data to make the experience better. And at the end, it's a better experience for the end user, which will help the brand and the organizer to grow.
Fantastic. Thank you for explaining. Tim, I'm going to come to you in just a second. Before I do, just Baptiste, I just want to be clear then. So in the case of Swapcard, all the identity and demographic data, as well as the behavioral data, is stored and owned by Swapcard in the spirit of giving the control of the data to the individual participants in the event, right? So, and that's what drives and feeds your algorithm, so that you can matchmake and curate experiences as well as your as possible. So if if one organizer puts data into works with you and their data goes into Swapcard, that drives the algorithm that a competitive event can benefit from. Is that right?
Yeah, so first of all, as I said, the organizer owns the data as well, not just us. Then it's, of course, yes, there is like for the social graph, we analyze every event. So the more events, the better the AI. So basically, this is why there's a lot of players using Swapcard, because the AI get better and better. And of course, then there is a curated suggestion on an event basis. So this is great to have the best AI and to start the AI when you have almost no data about that attendees. But my customer really understand the power of the AI, and I'm pretty sure that team is the same. They love the AI, and they are okay to have us analyzing AI on all events. So where they used to see competition in between them, now my clients are okay. They all sign towards Swapcard, the major exhibition organizer, but you need to explain. The only thing what we don't do, as I said, we don't mass delete data. If you mass delete data, you are impacting other events who rely on Swapcard. So let's say I'm an attendee, I've registered to 2 events. If you ask me to delete my data, it will impact my other event, which will delete that data on the database of every event organizer where I'm registered to. This is why we don't delete data, unless if the attendees wants to, in which case they can do it on the platform.
Okay, thank you for explaining. I understand how that works.
I think that's the risk we face. And also, just on behalf of the majority of registration companies around the world, it's a very antiquated way that you're talking about registration companies who delete data after a show. That hasn't been happening for 20 years. We have been storing organizers' data for them and allowing them to use it. We never delete. Our systems have been building for more than 20 years data on the attendees, which shows they go to, which booths they stop at, which sessions they buy, how their physical journey and has been on the show floor as well as on the website. But we store the data for them. We don't own the data. And I think that's the biggest risk that we have to think about right now. I understand why you want to do it, Baptiste, but I think the organizers need to find out what they want to do themselves and what does it mean for them. I believe it's something that is a question. You're saying that all the large organizers are pleased to use your platform, but I think it's something that they have to consider. I really agree with you, Baptiste, that it is the user that owns their own data, and with blockchain coming with all the facilities that we will be able to have for data ownership, the individual does own their own data, and where they give that data to is important. But I'm not sure that many clients fully appreciate, many organizers fully appreciate what a lot of the third-party platforms are doing with their data. So it is good to hear that you're very open and upfront about it, Baptiste, but I hope that they are listening to understand exactly what's happening.
Okay, Tim, over to you. Please explain Grip's position.
Yeah, so thank you, Mark. So the identity of the individual on Grip is owned by the, well, of course, by the user, but then is a kind of, the data controller is the event organizer. Grip is not a co-controller. Grip is a sub-processor to the organizer. So if you are attending EventTech Live today and the UFI conference, those are 2 separate instances on the Grip platform. And you have 2 separate accounts, which of course has means that you have to create an account for those individual platforms. But since both UFI and EventTech Live have been using Grip for 2+ years, any connections that you've made within that in that community in the last 2 years stay with you. And so UFI and Eventech Live are independently building up their own social graph so that they get the full benefit of having total control over the attendee and their experience and their identity. I think it is a huge, huge risk for organizers to step away from owning the identity on platforms. And it would be similar to signing into going to Amazon and eBay. And you go to Amazon, you order something, and Amazon knows, okay, I am Tim. And tomorrow I sign into eBay, and now eBay automatically just knows, hey, this is Tim. I mean, how crazy would that be? How, like, that's a huge business decision for Amazon and for eBay in this case. And organizers need to look at themselves in the same way. If you are Informa, you're the biggest organizer in the world, and therefore you are subsidizing the growth of all other event organizers that are smaller than you, because you're putting all your millions of participants onto a platform that all the others can now benefit from. So it is actually something that negatively impacts the larger organizers. The smaller organizers and corporates, for example, corporates don't mind, and that makes sense. Like, that's why Hopin is similar to Swapcard in this position. But if you are a commercial organizer,
we don't own the user identity grip. Sorry, Tim. We don't own.
But Baptiste, you own the identity. The identity you maintain across 3 years, across all events that I attend on Swapcard.
Yeah, but we are not allowed to use that data in any other action than to store it. So we store the data like the registration platform do and has been doing for 20 years. We do the same. We don't own it. We cannot use that. So there's absolutely the same as you agreed, the same as ExpoPlatform, and it's absolutely the opposite of exactly what you said, kind of open platform, just to make clear.
Yeah, I think that nobody is saying...
exactly.
Sorry, nobody is saying that someone is using somehow this data right now. What we are probably saying is that, do you remember, if we are speaking about parallels, Google, the famous motto, "Don't be evil," and several years ago they just get rid of this motto for now because of the business benefits. And there are a lot of risks here. We are all CEOs sitting here and speaking, but with the coming in private equity, venture capitalists, the situation can be changed, right? And the management can be changed, and the nature of business can be changed. And there are a lot of risks, including being a competitor when technology platform can become a competitor. The second one is when technology platform can enable other competitors with all this amount of data. And the other risk can be that the technology platform change the nature of the business and becomes the event networking platform where all organizers are just renting the place. But the difference between Facebook and our business is that here organizers are paying for using the platform quite significant amount of money, and you like buy now but pay forever with the data.
I have a question for maybe Info Salon. Like, did you have the same discussion that we are doing 20 years ago, because you were storing the data, you were using the data, and people were maybe afraid that one day you will disrupt your own clients? Of course, we will never do that. Otherwise, we get out of business. So how did you solve this?
So what we had is a very good discussion with them. In fact, Reed at the time was one of our biggest clients worldwide, and Mike Rusbridge, who was CEO of Reed at the time, actually called Info Salons the vault of the industry, because it was like they were putting it into a bank, and it was safe there, and that no one could touch it, not even us, but that they could have all access anytime they want to all the information, but only and even they even put in specific entries to who in their organizations could download that data and so forth. So that's been like that for many years, and we had to have that conversation with them. Baptiste, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what you're doing. I think it's great that you're having that open discussion, and it is important to have a look at many different things around the world. But I think we've got to concentrate and on making sure that the organizers understand fully how that works. And it's good to hear that you are talking to clients to make sure that they understand.
Okay, so we're nearly out of time. We are going to need to overrun just a little bit. Apologies to UFI and those people that are on tight schedules, but we do need to tackle the remainder of the topic. And of course, the big concern, I put out a message on LinkedIn a week ago and asked organizers to say, what are your concerns? Tell me what questions you want to ask. And the major concern exists around what happens with your businesses. And this isn't just one of you, this is all of you. What happens with your businesses when the next round of PE buys in, when somebody else wants to evolve the business model and do more with it? You all own data. You all own algorithms that are designed to enable you to match buyers and sellers, and that's very well organized into sectorized data. The concern is at the moment you are in a kind of digital venue position, and we know in the physical world that physical venues often make the shift from purely hosting events to wanting to run and own them. And that with the data ownership and insights and privileges that you have in the business model that you have, the organizer's concern is what happens when the game changes, and you might be tempted for whatever reasons, or future owners might be tempted to then exploit that data and potentially take a competitive position against organizers. So does anyone want to respond to that concern that organizers are voicing? Any reassurances?
I think we all want to respond. So Tanya goes first, then Baptiste, and I'll go last. So let's do quick, like 30 seconds.
Yeah, very quick note here. I think that the only genuine way to prove that the data will not be used in any other way as we meant to use it is to have this written in our agreement. And if we have the consent from the organizer that they are happy to opt in to participate in this shared pool of data owners and share their data with their competitors, is their decision. But there has to be awareness about this, and there has to be, open discussion, and then decision made. But the only way to prove it that it will not be used in the wrong way is to have it written.
Yeah, thank you, Tanya. Baptiste.
I would say that first of all, running an event and being a platform is very different. I'm a tech platform. I will never organize events. This is not my core business. I have VCs behind me. We cannot change unless it's a fully in the consent of everyone change business. So that's the first thing. We are tech company, and they don't want to do anything related to events. We're here to power you, and you are our clients. If we want to disrupt you, we lose all our revenue. And so that's definitely the opposite of what we want, because trust us, it takes a lot of time to build a successful event tech company. And then, of course, as Tanya said, when we sign with the clients, we are very often a 3 years contract, and all this is part of privacy policy. And we have also always discussion regarding this data. So you have absolutely right to, we have to be bound by these agreements.
Okay, Tim?
Awareness is critical, and that's why it's great that we're having this session. I think that the risk of, kind of agree with Baptiste, the risk of a VC coming in and changing the entire business model of an event tech company is highly unlikely. It's just, it won't happen. But I agree with Tanya that actually it's super important to write this into the contract. And I think that organizers need to invest in independent advice from data consultants and in order to really understand what the different positions are. And we know that clients are discussing with probably all three of us the differences in the approaches that we take, and we do see that different organizers are favoring different models and making decisions based on this, because it is a very fundamental difference that I think all of us are very aware of, and it needs to be written into the contracts and clearly communicated with clients as part of the discussions, as Joanne did 20 years ago.
Fantastic. Joanne, any remaining comments you want to make to wrap us up?
Well, it would be interesting if an organizer, a large worldwide organizer, purchased one of these major platforms. Because what would that mean? But that's just something else to think about. So all I'm saying is, put your thinking cap on, make sure you have honest, open conversations with your third party. As you can hear from all of these guys today, they are honest and they are professional because that's what they do. They sit down and they discuss it. But there are many platforms out there right now. Make sure you sit down and find out exactly where your data lies and where it's being stored and who has access to it.
Yeah, fantastic. I think just to wrap up, there's some, hopefully that's pretty clear to people who owns what data. There's a slightly different position and ethos at the three companies that we're speaking with today. Ultimately, there are risks in business. There are no one has a crystal ball to see exactly what's going to happen in future, who's going to acquire who, whether or not an organizer will acquire one of these platforms or any of the others out there. Heck, some of the organizers out there right now are attempting to build their own platforms to maintain full control and ownership themselves. And good luck to them. I think ultimately we don't live in a risk-free world, but the best thing that we can do is to perhaps follow the advice that Tim gave there. That, you know, in choosing which partner is right for you, you have to be absolutely aware of who owns what, and get some strong independent advice. And I'm sure from there you'll be able to mitigate the risks and feel more confident that you have control and transparency of what's going on. So we've gone a few minutes over there, but I have to thank the panelists for doing a fantastic job of being open and transparent and having a good debate at points. Really enjoyed hearing your points of view, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.